I'd like to now recognize my friend from Georgia, Ms. McBath.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here this morning. Really appreciate you, and I'm so glad this is such a bipartisan issue for our committee. We're excited about that. Mr. Pulsifer, good to see you again, and Mr. Cheney. I know that you are both fully committed to ensuring that every American is able to easily navigate and understand the continuously expanding universe of degrees, credentials, and competencies. I deeply appreciate your input, as well as the other witnesses for joining us for today's discussion on learning and employment records, or as we're calling them, LERs. The American people are angry, and that anger is truly justified. One of the reasons there's so much anger and so much frustration is that it has become too expensive, too confusing, and too slow for everyday people to obtain the skills and to prove that they have knowledge necessary to get a good job and provide a decent life for themselves and for their families. There are millions of Americans who have done everything right. They've done everything right, and they have next to nothing to show for it. Despite going to school, paying for a badge or credential of some kind, or learning directly on the job, so many Americans find themselves no closer to the financial freedom and independence that they put all of their hard-earned efforts towards to begin with. With that comes feelings of shame and feelings of resentment towards not only yourself, but the system that you put your faith in that really didn't do anything at all to help you move closer to a decent life. While not all have equal value, and some are certainly better than others, a degree remains the surest path to economic success. However, it's not the only way to get there. Congress must do more to ensure that workers can effectively show that they have the legitimate skills and credentials needed to do the work. The reality is not everyone can afford to put their entire life on hold, take out a loan, and go back to school for years at a time to land a decent job or make a change in their career. That just isn't how life works for most people. There's no reason why our workforce and education system should be so overly dependent upon young adults making incredibly expensive, long-term, and difficult-to-reverse decisions when job markets really don't work like that at all. The economy is always changing, and we must set our workers up to adapt so that they can keep up. Workers and employers, they need an education and workforce system that is easy to navigate, allows for quick adjustments, and meets them exactly where they are. Just as employers need to know which skills, credentials, and training programs are worthwhile and truly are passing along the knowledge necessary for their students to do these jobs and safely and effectively do them. But students and workers need to know exactly where to go and how much it is going to cost them to get the skills necessary to provide a decent life for themselves. For learning and employment records to become a common practice, it would require the establishment and maintenance of standardized credential registries or databases so that workers and employers can validate the information that's provided against an approved database of credentials and information. It's so important that workers, employers, and education providers understand what credentials are available so that they are better informed of what degrees, skills, and competencies are out there and which ones are really worthwhile. My bill, Creates Act, which I introduced last Congress with Representative Hayes, would authorize funding for grants to states to help them create these databases. Mr. Cheney, can you please talk about how this bill, since we just talked about it briefly in the back, how this bill would help scale up state efforts in developing credential repositories as well as learning and employment records?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the bill was drafted with a number of organizations to ensure that states would have the resources to develop these registries and to use the open interoperable data standards, all of which are necessary backbone for the LER infrastructure, so that you can have LERs issued to people and they can draw information about the credential information from a secure repository of validated data about those credentials and skills. We've seen this work being done in several states, but we need to get there quickly and get there at scale so that we can have a national system available.
Well, thank you so much. My sister state, Alabama, has done so, but I look forward to finding a Republican, especially on this committee, to get this bill introduced in a bipartisan way this Congress. And I hope that we can also get the bipartisan reauthorization of WIOA signed into law by President Trump as well, and I yield.